All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's City Council meeting on April 3rd. And I apologize, it's 7:02. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Our first order of business is our invocation and pledge, and tonight we have Pastor Robert Castro from the Calvary Chapel Church, and please remain standing, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance right after. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. Thank you for allowing me to be here to open up an invocation. If you'll bow your hearts with me, please. Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to be here tonight. And Lord, we pray for your wisdom, Lord, to fill this hall, fill each member of the council. Lord, for the decisions having to do with our city. Lord, thank you for each member here, Lord. And thank you for the representatives from our first responders, those who get put in serious conditions, serious situations. Lord, we pray for your protection over those departments, each one of those men and women. And Lord, tonight, we invite you to be here. Lord, this week is probably the most important week on our church calendar as we remember and celebrate the biggest event, I think, in human history, and that's the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Lord, I pray tonight that you would be here as the discussions are going forth, things that are being voted on, Lord, having to do with our city, having to do with all the different areas of our city. Fill each one of these members, Lord, with your wisdom, that the votes would be gone true, discussions that would be happen. Lord, this is all done for your glory. Thank you that you love our city, you love our streets, you love this place. So be with us tonight, and we pray all of this in the matchless name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Please join me for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Mr. Lavender. All right, let the roll call show that all council members are present.
So noted.
Next item is our minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the City Council regular meeting minutes from March 20th, 2023.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved as presented. Claims against the city. D1.
Mayor McFarland, I move to accept and pay the claims against the city dated March 15th through 28th, 2023 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Claims are approved. Meeting agenda approval. Any changes, Mr. Raines?
We have none, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody on council? Okay, seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. We have no special presentations, so we'll move right into consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion and one roll call vote to the council. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or member of the public so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. Is there anybody on the council that needs to remove anything or wants to remove anything? Anything from the public? All right, seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Edwards.
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lavender.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next is item H, which is our public comments. This is an opportunity for the public to address the council. Just as a reminder, the items that you are discussing, if you address council, are not on the agenda, so therefore we cannot respond. But if there are some items here, I think we have a public hearing later, so that item, we will allow public comment and we can respond. So if there's anybody here who would like to address the council, please step forward, state your name and your address, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Would appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Scott Farley. I live at 513 West Mattern Drive. And once again, I'm answering for a variance at 511 West Mattern Drive so I can rebuild a travel trailer and live in it. I tried working with planning and zoning, but the only thing they know how to do is stonewall me. They don't give me a chance. I've improved the property since I moved on there. When I first moved in there in 2017, the place looked like, I don't know, you guys remember Sanford and Son? It looked like that. So I moved it from where it looked like a junkyard to someplace halfway decent. And if I'm allowed to finish it, I'm able to make the old trailers look good. All I want is a home to retire to. I'm 57 years old, and I'm getting too old to do this. And plus, getting knocked around in Iraq a couple years didn't help.
Okay.
So that's basically it.
All right. Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, seeing no one else, and just to let you know, we'll have somebody from our staff follow up with you. All right, I'll close the public comments section, and then we'll move to our award of contracts, I-1. Kevin?
Thank you. Staff is recommending that the mayor and city council authorize the purchase of all replacement and new vehicles and equipment included in the blanket approval list for fiscal years 22 and 23 in an amount not to exceed the budget of authorized spending limits. Council will most likely recall that we did a blanket purchase agreement authorization previously, and that we found it very successful navigating the purchase challenges we find ourselves facing, and really gives us the flexibility to take advantage of every deal we're able to find out there when it comes to replacement and new vehicles. So again, we are asking for authorization to have authorization to purchase all the vehicles that are on the replacement list for fiscal year 22 and 23. And we had originally, we're going to add fiscal year 24 on there as well, but we're going to go ahead and let council approve that budget before we bring that authorization back. We have found it very successful working with the finance department, looking at our procurement requirements and making sure that we adhere to those as best we can without violating any state statutes when it comes to purchasing these vehicles. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead, Matt.
I just got one. Could you guys just let us know at least what you got going? Just an email or something, just so we know. But
We could probably, as we move through these purchases, as we know when they're going to occur, I would probably provide that report to Larry, and he could put
Like
that in
maybe
the weekly
In your
update.
weekly report, Larry? Your
Yeah, that would
update.
not be an issue.
yeah. But I know we approved it in the.
That would keep him in the loop, too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin.
Because these will be budgeted items, right?
Yes, everything's budgeted items, and the way we ask for this approval, we're finding vehicles are a lot more expensive, so we're looking for ways to cover the additional costs through our operating budgets when possible, so that's why we ask for the fund transfer capability, working with finance to achieve that, so, yes.
Lisa?
And I understand the need to do that now, especially because of the, the shortage of vehicles and any other equipment. But I'm hoping this isn't like something that we do in the future forever. Kind of like what you said, Matt, it's something that's always come to us before. So I understand now, but hopefully in the near future, we go back to our regular way of doing it.
And as you'll recall, we have taken several contracts for your approval. However, they've all been canceled. So
Right.
again, when we're able to follow our normal procurement rules, we're trying to adhere to that, but it's when we find ourselves faced with those challenges and the very short timelines to take advantage of having those vehicles available, we just can't follow the normal process. We are absolutely looking forward to getting back to normal. That would be great.
And will we continue to also kind of work with the local suppliers as well?
Yes, we absolutely will.
So, I mean, try and communicate with them and see if they can help us finding deals, if you will.
We've been successful and we've been unsuccessful in that, but we will continue to give every available vendor the opportunity to work with us.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you, Kevin. Any other questions or comments?
I just want to make the one point that you said, Kevin, kind of quickly, but we have approved these contracts and we missed out on vehicles because of the time it takes to approve it and go through the process and then get the money to the dealer, correct?
That's correct. And I'll use our police department as an example. You know, they've been very aggressive trying to find vehicles, and all of a sudden they'll find one in New Mexico, and it's sitting on the lot, and we need to purchase that within,
24 hours.
48 hours before it's gone. And all entities are doing the same thing. They're just trying to find opportunities.
So, yeah, just so we know, there is a real need and a real reason.
Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, then I'll call for resolution number, please, Gloria.
Resolution number 5529, a resolution of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, approving the purchase of budgeted vehicles, authorizing expenditure of public funds, authorizing the transfer of budget authority, and authorizing the execution of agreements, purchase orders, contracts, and all other necessary documentation by the city manager.
Mayor McFarland, I move that we approve resolution number 5529 as presented.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Gloria, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Edwards,
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston,
Yes.
Councilmember McBride,
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lavender,
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next is I-2. Kevin?
Thank you. Staff is recommending that the mayor and city council award a sole source contract to West Tech Engineering LLC in an amount not to exceed $305,237, plus any applicable taxes and/or freight charges due at time of purchase. And this is to replace 2 Flender Oyster Stream aerator gearboxes at our wastewater treatment facility. If you've been out to our wastewater treatment facility, we have 4 aeration ditches, and that's where our bugs basically work on the waste and start to break it down so that we can reclaim the water from that stream. The aerators at each end of those large basins, they're like a large blender, and we have 2 of those that have failed, so we need to get those replaced. We have worked with our finance department to meet all the requirements for a sole source purchase. At this point, it wouldn't make sense to bring different equipment in because we'd have to retrofit the entire system to accommodate that new equipment. So we're looking at a sole source replacement. We want to get this back online as quickly as we can so that we have the redundancy in our treatment system so that if we do have any additional failures, we've got that backup equipment. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Seeing no questions, thank you, Kevin. I'll consider resolution number, please, Gloria.
Resolution number 5530, a resolution of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting the sole source provider offer from West Tech Engineering LLC to provide 2 Flender OxyStream aerators gearboxes for the water reclamation facility, authorizing expenditure of public funds, authorizing the transfer of budget authority, and authorizing the execution of a contract.
Mayor McFarland, I move to approve resolution number 5530 as presented.
Second?
All right, I have a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Edwards,
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston,
Yes.
Councilmember McBride,
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lavender,
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next is I3. Kevin, is this yours too?
No.
Oh, no, it's not. Sorry about that.
No problem. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Staff recommends Mayor and Council authorize the sole source purchase of 2 Lab Conco drying cabinets and 1 Lab Conco fuming chamber from Arrowhead Scientific, Inc. in the amount of $57,664.25. Both of these items are equipment that the police department currently has. What we have has a lifespan of about 10 years. They were purchased when the new PD was built back in 2011. So they're coming very close, or have actually passed their useful life. These pieces of equipment are used to process evidence in our crime lab. And essentially, that's pretty cut and dry of what the equipment is and what we need it for, and I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Bob?
I have a comment. When I looked at tonight's agenda, I thought, well, the only thing that's not more boring, I guess, it was step up from the aerator gearboxes at the sewer plant was a drying cabinet. So pretty exciting agenda tonight. But I was going to make a comment in
Hopefully
today's
that's
world.
how important they are.
Yeah. In today's world, the drying cabinets and fuming chambers are very important. As you probably know, a lot of DNA testing is done on evidence, and a lot of that involves blood or other bodily fluids that have to be dried before they're sent to the lab. So although they may look disgusting when things are hanging up drying, it does serve a good purpose. And the fuming chamber, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but that goes back to the idea of using super glue to develop fingerprints. And of course, it's dangerous to stand there and breathe it, so they put it in a fuming chamber and allow that too. So just a little,
Thank you for
a little
education.
insight. Thought it'd make it a little more
Thank
exciting.
you, Chief.
We need a field trip, right, to go check it out?
It's always good to have a little police knowledge on the council. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, seeing no other comments, then I'll call for a resolution number, please, Gloria.
Resolution number 5531, a resolution of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting the sole source provider offer from Arrowhead Scientific, Inc. to provide 2 drying cabinets and 1 fuming chamber, authorizing expenditure of public funds, and authorizing the execution of a contract.
Mayor McFarland, I would move for approval of resolution number 5531 as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Gloria, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Edwards,
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston,
Yes.
Councilmember McBride,
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lavender,
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next is one of our ordinance resolutions and other matters subject requiring action by council, although I don't think there's any action on this particular subject. This is more informational. So Larry, I think you were going to do a quick presentation on the direction and maybe a little feedback on the election related to the charter amendments and the bond questions.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to present tonight, and I will be asking our city clerk, Ms. Leha, to join me in the dialogue. The council's well aware that in November of 2022, we had actually added both charter amendments to that bond, or to that election ballot, as well as general obligation bond questions. Through that process, our voters did approve one of the charter amendments that were recommended through our Charter Review Committee, and approved one of the 4 bond questions. And so from time to time, we are asked, the staff, what are the next what are the next steps in moving forward with either making additional changes to the charter amendments and/or what would be the next step for a general obligation bond process. And obviously, you heard this evening from the on the community services master plan that there may be an opportunity or a need at some point in time for us to at least have some level of dialogue. And so tonight's dialogue is simply to advise the council of what our options are with those two particular categories. From a timing perspective, to place them on place them on general ballots, and to ultimately say that if we are interested in putting any of those items on the upcoming ballot of November of 2023, then we need to begin to move rather rapidly. And so what I'd like to do is just spend a minute on the two types, and then again I'll hand the baton to Ms. Leha. But so essentially it's important to note that with our charter amendments, staff has evaluated the amendment, particularly question number 1 that failed, that was what we considered to be and what the Charter Review Committee essentially considered to be general administration, housekeeping items, for lack of a better word, changes to our charter. In our outreach to citizens, both before and after the election was completed, there were a couple of what I would consider to be consistent points that were being made to us on those particular charter amendments, and more particularly the general administration charter amendments. The first comment that we regularly received was that the November 22 ballot was very lengthy, that a number of individuals got what is more commonly referred to today as voter fatigue, as they were attempting to go through those the various ballots. We understand that there were a number of elements that were included and changes that were recommended by the Charter Review Committee as general administration. And so essentially, one of the discussions that we've had as a staff is the potential of unbundling that, what would have been one question, into multiple categories, and essentially trying to develop categories of similarities and asking our voters in multiple questions for those general housekeeping items. The unique thing about, I shouldn't say unique, the element that is important to remember on a charter amendment ballot is that we can actually put that before our voters in a consolidated election, which would be under the normal timeframes in August and November, and/or we can call for a special election in March or May. And so we do have options related to the charter amendments that are different than a general obligation bond, for example. A general obligation bond, under our statute, we must take that to a November consolidated ballot. And so again, the point that I want to stress on the general obligation bonds, as I let Ms. Leha present and get some feedback and direction from the mayor and council, is that there are a number of other entities that are evaluating similar taxing questions, because they're all going to go on a November ballot. And so that is something that, from a staff's perspective, as we've evaluated the overall outcome of that election, that we have been keeping in mind, and would certainly at least ensure that the mayor and council was aware of the types of questions that may be run concurrently in that same or a particular election. And so with that, I'm going to ask Gloria to talk specifically about the various ballots or elections. And then I want to open it up for general comments and direction and feedback from the mayor and council.
Yes. Probably what is very important to note is the county elections department has already notified me, asking me if we are going to conduct an election in November. I said we weren't sure, but they will ask for us to sign a contract at least 150 days before the November election. So if we're going to move forward with a November 2023 election, we are running out of time fairly quickly. The process for anything requiring a publicity pamphlet, such as a bond election, requires a lot of pre-planning in advance, which includes us going out and finding someone to produce our publicity pamphlet and working with our bond counsel. I can't tell you how many reviews of this publicity pamphlet we go through before it actually goes for printing. And again, there are a lot of timeframes which we have to meet, so we are running really close to the November 2023 election. And as Larry mentioned, in the state of Arizona, we can only conduct elections during 4 months of the year, and that is the second Tuesday of March, third Tuesday of May, first Tuesday in August, and then the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. Anytime we call for an election, the county's going to ask us 180 days, are you having an election? 150 days, we have to sign a contract with them. I did provide some information to the council in our RCA, just to give you a little bit of information on what it costs to conduct an election. To conduct an election for a bond election on November 7th, the county has estimated that our cost could be $116,000 to pay them, but if there are other jurisdictions that are holding an election on the November ballot, then it's split up by other jurisdictions. So if there's a school, high school, then it's divided by 2. If there's the elementary school, then it's divided by 3. So that cost to the county for November election can be split up by other jurisdictions. If we're the only ones on the ballot, then we bear the full cost. There are other costs to the city, and those are the publication, public notices, printing of the publicity pamphlet, which is about another $42,000. If we conduct an election in March or May of 2024, and I have to give you a heads up that the county has already let me know that they are not encouraging jurisdictions to conduct an election in March of 2024 because the state of Arizona will conduct its presidential preference election. They're not going to stop us from conducting an election in March, but they're not encouraging us either. So if we're talking about the May election, we could have a May election for our charter amendments. You could do an all-mail ballot election if that's the route we chose to go for either March or May. And the cost to the city to conduct an all-mail ballot election, and there's no splitting of that cost. I called to say, is there any way we can split it? No. That we bear the full cost of an all-mail ballot election, which would be about $157,000 for an all-mail ballot election to pay the county elections department. And then the city would also have to pay, again, for the publicity pamphlet and any publications, which is approximately another $42,000. Again, really important if we're looking at the November 2023 election. We are running out of time, and if that's the direction that the council wants to give us, we'll have to move really, really fast to get that done. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding elections.
So Gloria, if I can just recap this for my own sake. So in November,
Of 2023.
but any bond override taxing question has to be in November,
That is
right? So
correct.
there's
Any
no
bond
other option for that. So really the only options for the charter question, or we have 4 different options for the charter question.
Correct.
But we could do it in March, May, or August?
Correct, or you can do it in November.
Of an off year.
You can do your
Right. I know
both the
November.
bond and
I know you can do it in
charter
November.
Correct.
But if
And
you-
then we also have to keep in mind, in 2024, we will have a council election in August. So then we have to ask ourselves, well, if we got to wait till May, do we just wait till August? Because we will have a regular city council election in August.
So, and then my understanding is that I don't think anybody, well, I think the schools are going in November of 2023, this year, correct, Mr. Lavender?
Yes, sir.
So the high school and elementary school. Then I know that the county has to go during a general for their,
November.
I'll call maintenance, road tax. which is a half cent. This is totally different from the new roads that we were trying to pass through the PRTA. This is the maintenance tax. It's been in existence for, 20 years or something like that? And it's up in '26. So they're gonna try and get it voted through in '24, November of '24. And if that fails, then they would also try in '26. So, so those are what I know in terms of the elections. I know the PRTA, which is the new road tax, is looking at 2025. So that covers about every November election between now and '26 almost. So those are things to think about in terms of, how, if we wanted to go back out and do a bond election, that's gonna have to be in November. The charter, we could kind of pick and choose if we wanted to. So, I mean, if they're gonna do the March, then couldn't we do a mail-in? And of course, that's a lot of money for just a charter
Just for charter
question.
For a charter.
Right.
That's the problem. That's a lot of money for charter questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I can, I think it would be important for staff to recognize, number one, if the mayor and council, in our internal discussions and review with the attorney's office and city manager's office, we essentially believe that there is not a need to really get back into the charter. The Charter Review Committee had done that. They'd put together a set of recommendations. And we, at least in our opinion, we believe that if there is a desire to pursue additional work on that general administration question, that we could develop the categories and bring back more information to the mayor and council if there is a desire on the part of the council to do that. And Mr. Mayor, I tend to agree with you. If we passed on the March election, why would we elect to have an election in May when we'll have a regular election, a primary election in our case for the council that we'll be paying for anyhow?
Well, and Larry, we could look at going with the schools. It's not a tax question, so I don't know what the schools think about that. Meaning running the charter with them, then we can split it 3 ways in terms of the cost. I'd like to do the bond, but the bond's a tax question. I think
Right.
that wouldn't be fair to the schools, to the elementary and high school district. But a charter question, I don't think gets in the way of the override. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Shouldn't.
I mean, let's look at that. Maybe we can look at that, and then obviously the bonds, we're gonna have to push off. I don't think it can't be this November 23. Maybe it's something to throw out there in 25 when the county goes for their maintenance.
24.
Or 24 when they go for the maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be in November, yeah.
That's a state.
And it wouldn't be
just
on
a
top of
statutory
necessarily the council elections, unless somebody doesn't make it through the primary. So I don't think it muddies it too much for council. I don't know, that's just my opinion, so. Any thoughts, Matt?
I just had a couple questions. So it costs us $116,000 no matter how many things we put on there. Is that correct?
No,
Lori?
it gets divided.
No,
divided
no, but I mean, we could
schools.
have council, we could have our charter questions, our geo, like they only charge us one, I mean,
The election is, yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's $116,000
I mean, we can put as much as we want,
divided by
right?
different
it's
jurisdictions.
divided by
That is
all the
correct.
No, but I'm saying we could put charter,
Yes,
bond,
that is
everything.
correct,
So we can pay for one election and get all of them if we wanted to go down that road.
correct.
Okay.
There are some variable costs that
I mean,
might be primarily on
But I mean,
publicity
but I
pamphlet.
mean
like, but that's
roundabout, we're
pretty-
not getting
yes.
charged
That's
per
separate.
question or per.
Right. That
anything.
116,000 is separate from what the city pays directly for publication and printing of a publicity.
No, yeah, I understand. I
That's
just wanted
the
to make sure.
approximate 42,000.
We just paid for one a little bit.
Right.
And then the other thing that I wanted to make is when we did this first bond election, had to start this far ahead before, and we didn't know what the economy was gonna be like. The economy was much different when we signed that contract to
Right.
do that. And then the last question, I remember how many years ago, Gloria, but we did an all-mail ballot. I think it was for a franchise election or
It may have been
or
a
a charter.
franchise election, right.
Well, the
It's been a
last
while.
mail-in
Our
one
general
was for our general
plan.
plan. That was the
Oh,
last
correct.
mail-in one,
Okay.
Correct.
2018.
Okay, and so the one thing about the mail-in, once I see the cost, I'm not as encouraged, but our response seems to be
Higher.
higher, right? So, but then I saw the cost of it, so, yeah. I don't think it'd behoove us to do a separate for charter questions.
But, Mayor, you know, one of the things that, and Matt, you made a good point, we could put it all in one, but I think
That's too
there was a
much, yeah.
lesson learned this time around. I think Larry called it fatigue, and I feel like, you know, to do it again like that, we're probably insulting the public. And I guess I can't,
To be clear, I wasn't advocating that at all.
No,
because
no,
that's a
no,
problem.
right, but-
I was just saying it costs us just an amount,
Exactly.
no matter how much you put on there.
Exactly, and so I think
We
that
have to
we
do the
lesson
council so
learned.
we could do the charter or whatever, yeah.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Bob.
Just a comment, I agree with Donna about rerunning the GO bond so soon. And I did want to make the comment, in my opinion, the GO bond is much, much more important than the charter amendments. We can work around the charter amendments. And my feeling is we should have this same conversation a year from now and decide on what we want to do next year.
Well, we could throw the charter questions in with the school overrides and then share in the cost of that. You know, it would also
Yeah.
lower their cost as well. So it's something to think about. We can look at that, Larry, if you guys could put something together and if it makes sense. If not, to Bob's point, you know, let's have a conversation a year, probably in January, a year from now.
Right.
But, or even December, because we have to put pamphlets together and information, so.
But we kind of want to talk about the charter questions, because I think the point is we don't want to run the charter questions and the GO bonds.
No, that wasn't the intent.
That's what I mean, so the charter questions, do we want to wait that long, or do we want to start talking?
Well,
about
I'm saying the charter questions you could do now.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was getting at.
And then the GO, we would wait. Because to your point, I think it's too soon, and I don't think we're ready for it anyway. So
And
it's
so
going
both
to
the
take
high
more
school and the elementary school district are doing their override.
in November of this year.
Continuation of the override.
Right. So it'd be split 3 ways if we went in on that one.
Correct.
I think we should make
Is
sure
that
that they'll be
mail-in
okay.
only?
I believe November's mail-in only.
I think
isn't
it's mail-in only.
When I talked to the elections department, they did not indicate if it's an all-mail ballot election scheduled for November.
Because it's
But
only
I can
three, it's
certainly
only
find
three
out.
things on the ballot.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, you kind of stumped me, and I didn't know what to say. I do agree with Donna, and even on the charter amendments, I think it's too soon to go back. I mean, it's like, we told you no. Well, how about now? And I don't think that's, I think they can wait. I don't think it's a big issue.
I just think that their timing is better now than if you wait. Because you've got 24, and then 25 and 26, and there's some big things in 24 and 26 for sure.
And we can do charter amendments in 26. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you can do it,
They're
you can do it in the
not,
spring too, so.
they're not urgent, I don't think.
It's not that critical, so.
Do you think they're that urgent, Larry?
There are some elements within those charter amendments that absolutely build efficiency within the organization and from an operational perspective. You also have the matter with the selection of the magistrate that we've talked about trying to get corrected. And so
Cleaned up.
those, in my view at least, are key items. There's a number, to Councilmember Huddleston's point, there's a number of general house cleaning items that really are just attempting to put our city charter in alignment with either best practices and or statute that are probably not urgent. But if the mayor and council would like, staff could attempt to at least break out. Stephen, how many various amendments were going to be made in that first question? Do you recall? Wasn't it something like 60? Yeah, so there were a number of elements in that first general administration question. What staff will do is spend a little bit of time attempting to categorize those in two really topics, whether or not they're urgent or not, number one, and number two, if they fall into a general category of need. and I can distribute that to the mayor and council and let you take a look at that. We obviously are accustomed to operating the way that we have for a number of decades, and so we can live with either electing to postpone, and or we can live, we can certainly prepare to essentially put something on the ballot. But as Gloria has pointed out, if we're going to try to make the November 2023 ballot, we are on a very short runway today.
It may not matter if the legislature has its way.
It may even be worse, Mayor.
We may not be a charter city.
Right. So if, what I'm hearing is perhaps work on the charter categories, just to refresh the mayor and council what came out of that general administration question, not necessarily making any commitments to any type of an election timeframe on either of those, but ultimately not having any additional dialogue on the general obligation bonds for a minimum of a year.
I think that's the general consensus. Getting head nods.
Okay.
But we didn't vote on that.
Yeah, there's no vote, Mr. Mayor. This was just discussion.
Brett would have bit my head off already. Thanks, Mark, for being nice.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Larry. All right, we have one more item on, besides our reports. This is item number L1. This is a public hearing. And this is Planning and Development Director. Oh, maybe it's not. Mr. Gagliardi.
All right, good evening, members of council. So this is an amendment to the Vista Estates Planned Area Development Zone District. Originally, the Vista Estates PAD was approved in 2006. It's a 321-acre area that sits just on the north side of Selma Highway, west of I-10. As you see, the 2006 Planned Area Development Zone District was arranged from I-10 to the east to Hennis to the west, with the most intense uses near I-10, the multifamily area and an office business park. And as you proceeded east, you went into a low-density residential area with a commercial corner at Hennis and Selma. The proposed PAD would place a light industrial land use closest to I-10. That light industrial area could also accommodate some commercial uses, but basically buffering the light industrial area from the single-family residential area would be 45 acres of multifamily, and then a commercial area there at the corner of Camino Mercado in Selma. Another substantial change would be an increase in density in accordance with our newly adopted PAD residential design standards that allows for smaller lot areas and smaller lot widths. There would be a density increase from 3.2 dwelling units per acre for single family to 4.5 dwelling units per acre. And that would likely result in an increase of from 720 homes to 839 homes approximately. The multifamily area would also increase in density in that the current PAD allows for 16 dwelling units per acre. If this amendment were approved, it would allow 17.3 dwelling units per acre. In evaluating amendments to PADs, we have to consider certain criteria, and the staff report does dive into those criteria in more detail, but I want to talk about two elements. One is conformance with the city's general plan. The light industrial that's proposed lines up with the commerce and business designation of our general plan. The general plan does call for commerce and business uses along the I-10 corridor in this area, and light industrial is compatible with that designation. The majority of the site, however, is in that yellow, which is classified as neighborhoods. Neighborhoods accommodates primarily single-family development at a maximum density of 4.5 dwelling units per acre. And then multifamily is also allowed. You can have up to a 25-acre site that allows 12 dwelling units per acre max. And then you can have up to a 20-acre site that allows higher density up to 24 dwelling units per acre. One of the other elements is that along the eastern edge of the PAD lies the Casa Grande Linear Park Trail. And this PAD does acknowledge that the easternmost portion of the PAD will be dedicated for trail purposes. The other criteria that I want to talk about is the impact of the plan on existing and anticipated traffic conditions. At Planning Commission back in February, that was one of the more significant concerns with regard to how will primarily the light industrial development get access. Currently, Selma does have a bridge over I-10, but really to get to that area, primarily currently you would come up from Jimmy Kerr to Mitchell Road to Selma, or you could take Selma west to Jimmy Kerr. In the future, however, there is a planned interchange with I-10 and Selma, and Hennis is planned to go from Jimmy Kerr all the way up to Val Vista. So in decades out, there will be a really well-established roadway network, plus Camino Mercado is planned to extend as well. And this graphic shows you the ultimate roadway network in the future. After some discussion, we determined that due to the fact that the light industrial area, as well as other areas within that PAD, will be subject to major site plan review, traffic impact analyses will be looked at that time to determine whether the impact to the existing roadway network will have to be improved in order to support certain developments. With regard to the notification, it did follow all that is required by city code. We had received a couple of comments from the Casa Vista neighborhood, which is directly on the other side of Selma. But once providing those inquirers with information, there were no additional questions. At its February 2nd meeting, Planning Commission did unanimously recommend that council approve this PAD amendment. There were a couple of technical modifications that have since been addressed. Basically, there's only one condition of record, and that pertains to the standard requirement regarding dedication of right-of-way. Should the city need certain roadways dedicated as part of a larger project prior to the time of development, the owner of property within this PAD would dedicate right-of-way. And that would be particularly for Hennis or for Selma. And that concludes the presentation.
So the single-family piece has cause, certificates of assured water?
It does.
Okay. And is the developer willing to develop the Camino Mercado connection up to Florence?
So as part of the PAD, it does identify the Camino Mercado extension through Vista Estates. However, it wouldn't necessarily be extended all the way up to Florence at that time. It really would be driven by the results of traffic impact analysis. It would evaluate the level of service of the roadway network necessary to serve the proposed development. If there does need to be further extensions, in order for the project to work, they would have to do off-site improvements such as extending Hennis or Camino Mercado.
Because there is development going north of them, right? that apartment complex, there's two potential hotels, there's,
Correct, but.
yeah, it's north of Early.
It's north of Early, there's a gap of
It's
property.
another mile.
So another mile,
Yeah.
okay. All right, yeah, this is pretty far south. All right, the only concern I would have is Selma TI is not built yet. It's probably a little ways off. And accessing that light industrial and business core, put some pressure on Selma and Hennis. Not that it's impossible for them to handle it, but I guess we'll wait and see what the traffic count says, so. Anyway, just some of my thoughts, just thinking out loud. Anybody else have any comments or questions on it? Okay, thank you. All right, then this is a public hearing, so I'll open the floor to the public. Is there anybody here who is here to speak on the Vista Estates PAD change? It's item L1 on our agenda. Okay, seeing no one, then I will close the public hearing and call for an ordinance number, please, Gloria.
Ordinance number 1178.277.01. An ordinance of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, approving a major amendment to Vista Estates planned area development adopted for property generally located at the northeast corner of Selma Highway and Hennis Road, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor McFarland, I move approval of ordinance number 1178.277.01 as presented.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Edwards.
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lavender.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right. Next is reports, and I'll start with you, Anthony.
Oh, we had a wonderful time at our firefighters, our golf tournament, as well as fundraiser out there with also Councilmember Lavender. And so really enjoyed that, looking forward. I know Police Department is coming up on April the 29th, I believe, coming up in there as well, their fundraiser in regards to our Police Department as well. But I did have a wonderful time. Chief's here, and I let him know I enjoyed myself at that. Got a chance to talk with a lot of our firefighters and everything. It was really great. We had a great time.
Good. Thank you, Anthony. Donna?
Just a couple quick things. Lisa was our rock star at the Boys and Girls Club Dancing for the Stars. A lot of money was raised, and it was just an awesome event. I don't know that if the mayor has to wear the Maricopa jersey or not.
I don't think so. I think my Casa Grande rock stars rocked it out. So
Okay, ooh, good.
We did.
And then also,
We're looking out for you.
the mayor and I did the
I
mayor's
appreciate
reading program reception, and we had a nice number of our people there. And we had a nice little time. Some of our winter visitors have already gone, but it was nice with the group we had. All the kids received bookmarks, bracelets, and all of our volunteers received their water bottle, and it was filled with candy thanks to Amber and the library staff. So it was really nice. So that's it.
thank you. Matt?
Thanks, Mayor. Saturday was a great, beautiful day in Casa Grande, as always. Got to go to Public Safety Day. Huge turnout, families, a lot of people having fun there. I got to see a couple of guys that I grew up with that are in leadership positions, like deputy chief out there and some firefighters. So it was fun to see some people that have been around a long time taking care of our city. Not that long, right, Brian? And then I've noticed on Instagram a lot and stuff, updates, like I saw a good one with things to do for the month of April. I don't know if it was the Community Service Department or PIO or everybody, but great job. Our social media is looking pretty good to help get the word out there about what's going on. We have Youth Commission this Saturday, and then we have shredding again on April 22nd, shredding and e-cycle at First American Credit Union on Pinal Avenue. And we talked a bit about trails tonight, and I've been enjoying them, and it's getting to be a lot more people. So one thing is watch out for snakes now because it's getting warmer. And number two, pick up after your dogs if you take them on the trail with you. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Matt. Mr. Levner?
I attended the town hall that Supervisor Miller put on. It was very informative. He did an excellent job. I, like Councilmember Edwards, enjoyed the firefighters golf tournament. They did a great job organizing it, and look forward to the tournament at the end of the month with the police. The Cesar Chavez Committee has selected 40 of our seniors to receive a scholarship, and we'll be doing the event on April 21st at the Neon Sign Park. And not only was Lisa a rock star that night, but Casa Grande's own Jesus Ramos is now 20-0 and won his fight by a knockout. And so I think there's a championship fight coming his way pretty soon. So we're really proud of Jesus and what he's doing as well, representing our community.
Lisa?
Well, thank you to everyone who donated to the Boys and Girls Club. It was a fundraiser, so yes, I'm glad I got through that, and thank you guys for attending. Sure, glad that's over. We'll see who's on next year, guys. I did it, so I'm done, so. Who's next? The mayor and I know Larry attended the CAP dinner the other day. It was kind of interesting because I thought it was going to be a full presentation, you know, about water, and of course I had to have my caffeine in me to be ready for that, and it wasn't. It was actually really, the board was in town, and it was nice. They were doing their board meeting and inviting some of the leaders and community members to attend the meeting just to kind of network and everything. So that was a really nice dinner. I attended the fair housing training that the Housing Department, Mary Allen, put on last week, and I like attending that, and I know, you know, it was mostly for realtors and people that do leasing and everything, but I like to attend as a council member because, you know, we set policy and you know, zoning, and I think it's important for us to remember some of the laws, you know, that happen. So the Fair Housing Commission puts that on, and so I enjoyed attending that as well. The Biz Outlook lunch, Mayor, I think, you know, anytime you put the I-10 widening on an agenda, people will show up. So it was definitely a full house, and people were listening and waiting, and, you know, just waiting for something to, you know, to come of that.
Something to start.
I know. But it was a, you know, great meeting, and it was good to give people an update. And the Public Safety Day, again, you know, great day, great seeing our first responders. But I think the most interesting for me is watching the canine demos and Sergeant Ingstrom in that gear and getting attacked by those dogs, and it was just pretty intense. Not attacked, I mean, it was a demo, but it is amazing though, watching that, because I haven't seen any of that before. So so those canines and those handlers do a fantastic job, and it really was great. I was holding my breath as they were doing it. So, but good job to everyone that put that on.
Bob?
Mayor, as part of our weekly update, Mr. Raines always gives us a copy of the newsletter from the police department, and I took special notice and appreciation of the article from Dr. Paul Ellis, who is being welcomed as the new senior chaplain of the police department. He, of course, replaces Dr. Bob Cornelius, who at 95 years of age has retired. I suspect, knowing Bob, that he's not completely finished yet. I suspect he'll still be involved to some extent. Dr. Ellis congratulates him on 48 years of service and quotes a Bible verse of "well done, good and faithful servant." And I think that is very appropriate for Bob. He served the department for my entire 33 years with the department, and he was there long before me, and he was there long after me. So congratulations to Bob on his retirement. And Brian, please pass on to him my congratulations. Thank you.
He's probably going to show up in the reserves or something.
Yeah, oh, yeah. He will.
All right. Yeah, a busy week last week and the week before. Obviously, the I-10 widening was a big deal, and we had over 300 people at the luncheon for the chamber. Earlier that morning, we also had the Pinal Partnership breakfast over in Maricopa, where the county supervisors kind of gave an update on what was going on in the county. Again, well attended. It was held at the Elements, which is the little building out in front of their entertainment center there, where the casino is. Anyway, we were there. Safety Day was great. In fact, I talked to several people. They told me it was the best attendance that they had seen since we've been doing it. So congratulations to really all of our first responders, our police and fire, and everybody who was there to help support as well. Been getting a lot of calls from our U.S. delegation, our U.S. legislators. Eli Crane came to town. We took him around to our HOHP. Also, Juan Ciscomani, who's also our representative, he is planning to come to town here in the next week. So Casa Grande is on the map, and people are noticing. So it's been interesting, even getting calls from Mr. Gallegos, who's running for Senate for the Democrats this next election against Sinema and whoever the Republicans put up. So they're even calling. So it's been interesting. I've been getting a lot of calls also on Lucid, and so let me just address that real quickly. We were notified last week that they were going to cut their staffing. They have a little over 3,000 employees. Most of them are here in Casa Grande, and so they were calling for an 18% cut. That ended up being a number around 968 in Casa Grande. So those employees who were notified last week have I think it's a 2-month severance that they're giving them, which is pretty generous with health benefits. And then we put out a press release last week, I think it was on Thursday, that identified the 18% cut, and also identified, places they could go to try and get some help. And I think they were given this information as well through their employment group. But Arizona at Work is a great place for those folks to go to get help. We feel for them and their families. We want to try and make sure we get them back on their feet as soon as possible. I think that we can do that with the help of Arizona at Work and our other local companies that are hiring. And just to mention a few of them, Abbott, Kohler, Hexel, Frito-Lay, Franklin Foods, Acco Polymer, all are hiring. So on top of that, we have Procter & Gamble coming. There's another 300-400 jobs there. And that's in Coolidge. In fact, it's 11 miles from here, and it's 11 miles from Coolidge. Don't tell Coolidge that. But anyway, we can definitely make sure that we get some people hired and get those positions filled. So it's a reorganization. The plant is not closing. Just to reiterate, because I have had several people call me, and these are news people, and they go, can you tell me about Lucid closing the plant in Casa Grande? So that's the kind of misinformation that's out there. I want to make sure that is dispelled. They are moving forward with the expansion. They have we'll call it 2.4 million square feet that they will complete. And when that is completed, they'll also then begin production on their SUV. So that is their intentions, to put out their SUV by 2024. That's what they've told us. So we're going to go with their word and hope that their reorganization goes well.
And there's many small businesses in town who are the backbone of this community that are hiring
as well. Yes, good
Let's
point.
not forget that.
Good point, Matt. Speaking of one small business in town who needs workers.
Correct.
All right. And then the other least favorite topic that I have is your 2023 legislature. Today is the 85th day of the 2023 legislative session. A total of 1,630 bills were introduced this year. 37 of the bills were transmitted to the governor. Of those, 17 have been signed into law, and the remaining 20 were vetoed. Some of those being food tax, rental lease tax, which quite frankly would have been crippling for the city of Casa Grande had we lost those revenues. And the frustrating part is that it's done in the interest of saving people who need help. Well, the people who need help are on WIC and have, systems that they're in for food that don't pay sales tax. So there's no sales tax paid on folks who have food stamps or are on WIC programs. Same thing with rental insurance. If you're in a Section 8 needing help, there is no rental tax that you pay. So I'm not sure who they're trying to help. I think it's just positioning. And anyway, there's a bunch of bills that are still active and some that are being resurrected. And I won't get into the details on how they do that, but because it's mind-numbing. But just suffice it to say that I continue to keep an eye on them, along with the help of our Arizona League of Cities and Towns. So we'll continue to do that, and if you all can help in any way, I would appreciate the support. We've got a bunch of stuff that's coming up for our community services group and our youth commission, which Matt already mentioned, but we have Rec, Dine, and Dash, which is Friday, April 14th. The Catfish Rodeo, which isn't over yet, just coming up on April 15th, always a fan favorite. And then the fly-in breakfast out at the airport on Saturday, April 29th. And the Dia de los Niños is Saturday, April 29th as well. Also, if you need a job, also the city of Casa Grande is hiring. So look at our website. We have everything from airport operations to summer recreation jobs. So if you're a student and you're looking for a summer job, take a look at our job site. Laboratory techs, maintenance workers, police officers, recruits and laterals. So if you know somebody who's up in the valley who hates commuting to Phoenix and would like to come and stay and work in Casa Grande, we have a spot for you. So that's it. That's all I have. Anybody else for the good of the order? All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening to our reports, and thanks for being here tonight. Meeting adjourned.